These two suspects, and this is frankly not a surprise, do have a history with law enforcement. Clearly, they're considered armed and dangerous. So we do have the names of those individuals, two 24-year-old males.
Okay.
We're not going to release the names unless they've been charged or unless the Seattle Police Department reaches out to the public and says, hey, we need help locating these people. And so that is the status of this right now. And we said earlier that given the amount of surveillance video, the amount of witnesses, the fact that this wasn't a random incident that occurred, that it was very likely the Seattle Police Department was going to be able to identify some suspects fairly quickly. And I will tell you, when you have a situation, we had two people shooting at each other. It doesn't matter who fired the fatal shot, who killed the victim in this case. When you're participating in the commission of a felony and someone dies as a result, you are just as culpable as the other person. And so both of them clearly facing incredibly serious charges if and when Seattle police are able to locate them. So that the latest this morning. Again, our sources confirming to us that the Seattle Police Department has identified two suspects in connection to last night's deadly shooting in Seattle. They are currently searching for those individuals, and we do know that both of those suspects, both very young men, just 24 years old, do have histories with law enforcement.
This is the third shooting in the same area in what it was less than 24 hours between these three different incidents. This is an area that a lot of us know is very dangerous. We see a lot of violence in that part of downtown Seattle, and now so many of us are fed up with it, and now the Seattle business community is saying enough is enough.
Yeah, and they've been saying enough is enough for a long time, and you really deal with the whole spectrum of issues in this area. What happened last night is incredibly sad. It's heartbreaking. It is above and beyond anything we typically see there, but you could have guessed that something like this would happen. I mean, you have people who truly don't care for the lives of other individuals, which is incredibly sad. But in this area, you really have this spectrum of issues, from issues around homelessness to drug use to petty crime like shoplifting and all the way up to what we saw last night, deadly shootings. The Downtown Seattle Association issuing a blistering statement about this. I want to read just part of it. It's a little long, but I think it's really important to understand how they feel. They said, in part, criminal activity around 3rd and Pine has been persistent for far too long and too often has led to violence and innocent lives lost. The heart of our city should feel safe and welcoming for all who live, work, and visit here. They went on to say, we call on public officials to devote the resources necessary to improve safety in downtown and take back 3rd Avenue from the criminals who have laid claim to it. On behalf of residents, small business owners, and employers and visitors, we say enough is enough. So what is going to be done here in the short term and the long term? Short term, we know that Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best has pledged to keep officers out there at that corner until further notice. I'm also curious whether the city is going to try to close down that McDonald's at 3rd and Pine. It seems silly because, if they close it down and people can't hang out there, they're just going to go somewhere else. But this has been a persistent problem spot in the city. And so short term, maybe that's a solution the city can take. Longer term, obviously you need to apprehend and prosecute the individuals responsible. But, we're dealing with these issues of repeat offenders. We have questions about whether our criminal justice system is really holding people accountable. And then, of course, the gangs and the drugs. You need to deal with all of these things in a meaningful way. And I will tell you that it takes political will to do that. You have to be focused on keeping people safe, not making political or career calculations about what path is going to be received the best by the public.
And lasting results. I mean, we've seen, you talked about this earlier, 5 or so years ago, they did a sweep of the whole, 9 blocks or so. And we're back to square one again. So what can last?
Right. Emphasis patrols are useful, when you're having an uptick in crime in certain areas, to go in that area, flood it with law enforcement, and try to take proactive action, which is what we saw in 9.5 blocks 5 years ago. They also simultaneously did an operation called Operation Crosstown Traffic, where they arrested more than 100 drug dealers. Right. But when you flood an area and then you take that emphasis away, over time, you're going to start to see some of the same issues return. That's what we've seen in this area of the city. And so you need a much more lasting approach, but that also takes resources at a time when the Seattle Police definitely needs increased staffing. They're working on it. They're just not there yet.
They're strapped. All right, Brandy, appreciate it. Thank you. And we will keep you posted on this all morning.